Hey guys, Game Hunter here, and we're back with some Unreal World in which we look at stuff that I've already done before, but nevertheless we'll try to narrate it as good as possible. Last time was the time that we actually did stuff that was interesting, and now we do the stuff that's kind of interesting but not actually making progress to my ultimate objective of getting to the southeast sort of situation. So here's me just setting up some nets. I think I'm more or less out of food. So I'm just getting the precautions I need in order to make sure that I will have a fresh supply going on towards the southwest tip or whatever it is. I'm basically where I was when I left, but that's just the way it works sometimes. I do like how you can see things like nets and shelters and whatnot outside in the wilderness map. And what do you know? I just happened to spot good old Nierpaderp fella, just ready to cut him up into good old-fashioned pieces. Unfortunately, then the Nurpez was rather difficult this time around, and I take fairly significant injury. Nothing that is going to seriously affect me, but the overall accumulation of damage here is significant. I wouldn't call it severe, and so I'm just repeating myself, but that's just the way it works. Yeah, just a bit of a hit and nothing really special there. So instead, let's just go ahead and super speed up this battle. I actually start worrying about the injuries because I take a 9% hit all at once. But in the end, I mean, it's really not that huge of a problem. The fatigue's starting to pile, and the injuries are bad, but he dies, and that's just the way it works. Steal some of his stuff, and of course chop them up into tiny little pieces after collecting some javelins. And then we're good to go because we got all our 37 cuts this time. It depends on, I don't know, the cut of the warrior. I like the cut of this man's meat, which actually is far more literal in this sort of place. And that's just the way it works. However, oh man, and it's hard to show this, but if you notice, I have the two nets, the human cuts. I'm dropping them onto the boat here. I've already, gotten 10 of the human cuts roasted up, and I've already collected the nets because I decided I'd just, ship off at this point because, well, why not? I have enough meat to travel for probably about a week or so before it truly spoils. So it's all dropped, and I was clearly on the raft at that point. So now we go ahead and speed up, and right here I want to show everything. Just look very carefully at everything that is written in there, and you'll notice that there is no sense of the nets and no meat whatsoever right there. And I cannot explain. I looked over the footage several times, and that was the first place of evidence. Oh, and here's all the injuries I sustained. Some worse than others, like the bruise in the right shoulder and some hits in the thorax. But yes, unfortunately, I seem to have lost my nets, which really, really, really sucks, especially being a fisherman. So that's just the way it works. And here's me just collecting on some, looking at things, and then I realize, wait a second. I am not doing so well with my meat supply and my nets. But, and I'm pretty close to the southwest. I don't know if I'm absolutely there. Certainly I have to travel back up a little bit in order to. But you can see that we've covered a lot. A whole mess of distance in order to get to where we are now. So I'm pretty proud of that I was able to get there. And that part of it was only probably about 3.5, because the rest was all I'm not even sure why I kind of got caught up. It was more like I was infuriated that I lost my nets, and I spent a while looking for them, and then I just went back to the footage and realized that they were gone for any reason. Could have been a bug, could have been I didn't actually drop them on the net and then they got discarded somehow. I really don't know. But in the end I went back there just to look around for them, and for the next 2-3 hours, I just kind of hung around in that area, which wasn't entirely for naught. I did get to do some interesting stuff, as will be shown off in due time, but I guess it was just frustrating for me, and that's why I ended up as I was. There were some reasons that I didn't end up heading back entirely as soon as I got a food supply, but we'll see that as we get to it. This is my first big old supply of meat that I found. It's a good old elk. Unfortunately, the elk turns out to be rather difficult to catch. I don't even know how you catch an elk, unless it's possible to catch an elk in the same way that you catch a reindeer, which is absolutely by luck. um, I mean, imagine there are ways to do it with traps and stuff. I haven't figured it out yet, but that's the way it works. And here was me catching a pike and 4 breams, especially the pike was important. If you notice, my nutrition is rather low at this point. I've been trying to catch stuff and failing quite miserably indeed. And you can see that I got 30 logs there, 33 blocks of wood, lots of boards and firewoods and stuff. I've just been collecting a lot over the course of the time going through and just dealing with stuff. And it's also been increasing my skills and whatnot. I'll show that in the next real video. I'm pretty sure I don't show off skills anywhere at this point. And here we are looking for some other interesting stuff, like some reindeer. We saw reindeer in the last video, just briefly. In this case, we'll also see them briefly because it turns out reindeer are actually rather difficult to catch too. However, I'm guessing that the fact that they travel in groups can make it a lot easier to catch them with traps, since there's more of them, and therefore there's just a higher probability that they'll happen to land on the trap. I don't know if certain animals are dumb enough or smart enough to run into or avoid traps, respectively, but that's just the way it works sometimes. I wanted to show right there, you probably missed it, and I'll have to go back, but the arrow hit the tree and broke. I actually lost quite a few arrows in my time trying to catch stuff. And I guess I'm just going to have to be a lot more careful about it from now on. Either attacking with arrows only when I'm in a wide open area or when I have an obvious shot. I don't know, but that's just what you got to do sometimes. Otherwise, I should probably stick to javelins, especially since I'm good with the spear. If you notice right here, I've been digging a hole. Digging a hole takes that's 6 hours. It was a very long amount of time. I don't know if that ever gets easier, and I don't know if you can kind of partially work on it or not. This game doesn't really seem to be very forgiving when it comes to working on something partially and then giving up halfway, but it might depend on the skill. And here I'm just trying to make my first trap pit. I don't actually show the other trap pits that I make trying to catch an elk, where I place 3 trap pits. I'll show that in the next live video, but this is just me collecting the goods I need in order to make the trap pit. I forget what it's called. It's like a trap. Is it the trap fence? It's something. And then there we go. Almost. Well, making sure that I get the branches that I need. And then I think I also need twigs or something. But mostly it's just the trunks, the branches, the twigs, and everything else. And I made this a lot longer than I did, but it just gives you an idea of what it took me to get through all of this entirely. So yeah, just how about that weather today? It's supposed to be raining for a month where I live. That's pretty incredible. Okay, it's called a trap pit. Raining for a month. That's pretty rough. In fact, it rained in the middle of Sunday, which I never see. And I'm talking about the weather in the middle of my LP. That's real professionalism there, GH. I also wanted to show that in the meantime, while I was doing stuff, I was also working on some hide, which, collecting some squirrel skins and other skins as I was catching other beasts as well. Mostly squirrel skins, because that's just the animal that's the easiest to catch. All the others are rather difficult to catch, and you see, ragged and harsh. It's very difficult to also get a good squirrel skin, because injuring them in any way seems to just mess up the skin. Something awful. But their skin, on the other hand, isn't really worth much either. I'm just doing it because I have things to stuff do, and I might as well. Because it takes a very long time for the process to go on anyway. It's just another thing to accumulate in the time periods of forever. And of course, since I don't have nets, I gotta use active fishing, so that's just the way that works. And sometimes you just don't catch any. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Another instance of me going after squirrels. Oh boy, what fun. And in the rain, no less, to make me tired and cool and make the starvation even worse, I'm sure. You can actually... Oh, well, I guess not yet. I haven't actually begun to truly starve. As you can see, the fourth bar near the top, where you got penalties for carrying, fatigue, and injury. We did see starvation in an earlier part, but this is where the starvation actually starts to happen. And it actually starts to affect my skills in a real way, because I don't plan on just scrapping this character. Not after all the effort it took me to get where I am, even though I could just create a new character that puts me everywhere. This was me using my Origin of Fire ritual, which is cool. Always a good time, but, you know, it basically makes it so that survival skill goes up a lot. And it makes it so that all of that works out in my favor, which I'm very glad for. Very glad for indeed. And for whatever reason, I wasn't able to catch this squirrel on the wilderness map. I had to crawl to it in order to make it properly. But yeah, that was interesting that I had to literally search for this one. It worked out. It was simple enough. And I'm sure I could do the same for other animals. You don't have to stumble upon them in order for it to work out. But yeah, starvation is going to start kicking in soon enough. Squirrels just don't do it for me after a while. Oh yeah, and this is the part where I find a new beast, the wild sow. Now, it doesn't really look it here, but they actually are rather big animals, because they take a lot to go down too. It's not just an easy prey. Even though I got it with a puncture to the thorax, it's still moving around pretty much ruckusly. I mean, I would probably put them in the same category as reindeer, really, and maybe elk stag, although I haven't actually caught one of those yet. Although I suppose that spoils it, since I just kind of, by process of elimination, ruled out certain types I haven't caught. Wink, wink. Yeah, the sow ends up being a big pain. And we got, a good old reindeer. And you can see that they do have suffering. I think I hit that one, days ago, and it still has the same wound on it, because reindeer do not know how to make themselves work out. Oh, and here's the absolute, complete stupidity peak that I ever reach. Because I didn't know how to check a trap pit to be sure. I didn't know if there was an easy way to look at it, because Examine wasn't doing it for me. So we end up falling into it. The game just lets you do that. And I take a fracture to the left thigh, forcing me to stay on off my feet for a very significant amount of time. I think injury has to get to 15% or so before I am allowed to get back on my feet. And here I'm actually using a ritual it's called the blood staunching ritual or something. And that makes my physician skill skyrocket. So it makes it a lot more likely for the physician skill that I do to work out for me. And, well, I try to use as much as I can, as much as I remember to, at least. And fortunately, and perhaps ironically enough, it's after I wound myself that I start to get good food. And it's pretty hilarious. I get out of starvation entirely, and just trying out other things. I experiment with stuff, but let's not worry about all of that. I'll try to show it off in due time. One thing I thought I'd show off, just because it's stupid and I didn't really leave it entirely. At least I think I'm going to do it. The video game may or may not actually show what I'm supposed to be doing. Here we go. Most good. There was one time in the past video where I completely put the wrong footage in and I had to go re-edit things. But this is me just putting down some loop snares. Poor loop snares, because I can't make them very well. Even though I don't think it probably mattered that I was off my feet at the time. It's just that I can't make good traps. And I wonder if you can disassemble the loop snares to just get back your string, because a loop snare sounds just like a piece of rope with a knot or something in it. So I hope that those are get backable. So I just placed them in random areas because I remember seeing a hare in this area. And I don't know, you guys can tell me. I have no idea if this is a proper way to set up traps, if you want to just spread them out everywhere, or if you want to kind of localize them in a particular choke point or something. Or even not a choke point, just putting them in an area where you see lots of footprints. And right there, okay, right there. Look in the bottom right. Yeah, you might have missed it. You might want to go back. But in any case, I'm moving there. I found a vagabond adventurer, and I thought I'd just go check him out, even though I'm not. I have to crawl my way there. Nevertheless, it's interesting. So I thought I'd go. It's like, hello, how you doing? I'm very hurt. I'm hoping maybe you have some kind of nice crutches or something I can use. Maybe, maybe not. But he does tell me where a village is, which is cool. He also tells me about a cave. You know, in retrospect, I never end up looking for this village. It says, 10 kilometers northeast, which shouldn't be that far away, if I'm fair in understanding the metrics. It would be farther than I think I've ever explored, since I never remember seeing, off in the distance you find a settlement. But yeah, I mean, you just do what you can. And what do you know? I get a pike. Pikes are a really nice amount of food. They really are. Oh yeah, and that was a very scary moment, because I did not want to be fighting Yerpaderps off of my feet. I don't even know why I was out in the first place. I was probably just bored and I wanted to try something interesting. But fortunately, this was a place where I found a wild sow. And even though I'm not standing on my two legs, because one of them is a bum leg, I am able to throw my javelins with a decent amount of force. And that turns out to be pretty darn good, because I get that wild sow and I go scoop-a-doop, bonk-a-donk. The wild sow, not the small one, but the big one. We throw that javelin at wild sow's trying to get up, but it's no match for my impeccable skills with the javelins. And there's the second one, smack dabbly doodah onto that wild sow. And even though I'm crawling, I do manage, in fact, because it's crippled for one, other than having like 3 different puncture wounds. It kind of loses a lot of stamina. And so we go ahead and we just try to finish it off with the trusty old northern spear. Smacking it, hitting it unconscious, and then beating its head skull in. I don't know why I chose to hit it, the blunt. Was it the point or the blunt? But in any case, I go directly for the skull. I'm thinking the neck's better for killing it. I might even finish with the neck blows. The wild sow takes a while, especially with the blunt. I'm trying to use the blunt as a way to potentially keep the leather skin going, because it's unconscious. I'm pretty sure I'm going to deal with it. So we go ahead and we get a decent wild sow skin, and that thing is like 4 pounds, which is pretty awesome. But even more importantly, the amount of meat I collect is enormous. So enormous I can't even move properly, so I have to figure that one out. But at 15%, I am finally able, because I just kind of try to rise on my feet, and so I do. So that's pretty awesome. Unfortunately for me, I try climbing at one point because I'm doing pretty good, and I slip and fall again, and another fracture on the other thigh. So great, I got 2 fractures, 1 on each leg. That's absolutely fantastic. At this point, I'm just skipping around a bit because a lot of redundant stuff happened and nothing especially interesting occurred throughout the rest of the run. I tried things like building codas. I built this trap pit area for the elk, but no more Yerpaderp fights. We do get one more super duper awesome kill, which I'll be showing in its entirety in just a moment. But right here, I go for the other option of putting all the loop snares around, because there's a hare that keeps trying to get near my stuff, and it sucks. And I'm thinking that's possibly one of the ways that I could have lost my nets. I don't know, because you'd think a hare trying to move a net would just get caught in it, but that's just the way I'm trying things out. Because I got the poor loop snares and I got the normal loop snares, and I figured maybe if I just put them all here, the hare might just get caught going through the encampment. I could put the loop snares all around everything, but I don't know. Anyway, here's the awesome kill that I get against a forest reindeer. Now, just check out this shot. It starts to bleed from the eye, just from a scratch. Now, honestly, this seems like kind of a bug that I'm able to cause this deer so much pain just from the eye attack. But, I mean, it's pretty hilarious because I'm like going after this deer and it's just, whatever. But it's kind of astounding. You can even see the blood trails. This is from a scratch to the eye, mind you. A scratch to the very just core process of the eye. And there's so much blood. And I lose track of him for just a second. The thing's just like completely unconscious from a hit. And I want to stress this. I scratched its eye and the thing fell unconscious from how nasty it was. I mean, serious puncture, sure, even though it called it a scratch. Because it was hit in the eye by a javelin. But still, I think that's a little unexpected. So, I mean, here, obviously, we can just go ahead and kill it, with some just hits. Even though I managed to completely miss it somehow in, attacking it when it's unconscious. It must be because I have 2 fractures and I'm on my feet because I can barely support myself. Anyway, I get the skilled thrust, strike it hard in the neck, drops dead in an instant. And of course, at this point, I just go ahead and collect its hide, collect its meat, which is some over 100 cuts, just a little over, but it's pretty great. And the best part is that because I only scratched its eye and then kind of bashed its neck once, I got a really good reindeer skin out of it, which is great because it was like, I think it said 10 pounds or something. It's pretty good. That's all I will say on the matter. It should give me a lot of bandages should I need them. It should give me the ability to make actual clothing should I need it. Or maybe it would serve as an amazing way to trade for stuff. Who's to say? But nevertheless, this has been Game Hunter playing Unreal World. Join me next time when we start doing some more live commentary. I hope this has been good enough to watch, but in any case, until next time, keep playing those roguelikes, guys, and take care.